Hey everybody, time for another video. This one is going to be on the technical side, but the one thing that'll give you the most advantage in fishing, and that is we're going to talk about the best connection knot for braid to your lure. 11 years ago, I did a show called Beyond the Cast, and in that show we got to test gear. But for me, as an angler who loves to have every physical advantage I can on the water, it gave me a chance to test knots, test rods, test a bunch of stuff. And I learned a lot from testing knots. I built a force gauge and we went through all of the knots, different connections, braid, fluorocarbon, monofilament. And it opened my eyes that what I was using currently, even though I was fishing at a fairly high level, was not the best option available. So if you can, do me a favor, click subscribe down below, click get notifications because that lets our videos get into your feed. Also, if you have a favorite knot for connecting braid to the hook end or lure end, leave a comment down below. We want to have this discussion. I love hearing from anglers and seeing what you guys are using, but this is what I use, and I've been using it for 11 years now. By far, in my opinion, the best knot for connecting braid directly to it. So a bit of back history here. When I started doing this, I was testing the knots and I was a Palomar knot user. Easy to tie, quick, simple, never had any problems with it. But when I was testing braided line and I started putting the braided line on the force gauge and pulling it with, we were actually using a winch to pull and a scale to separate to see how strong it would break, what I found is that braid, especially braids, all braids, but I was using Power Pro at the time. I tested it with every braid on the market, but braid will guillotine itself if there's a single loop connection around the eye. It'll actually, because there's no stretch, it'll chop itself and guillotine itself and break. So I was only getting like 65 to 67% breaking strength using 65-pound braid using a Palomar knot. So then I thought, you know, I've used back in the day Berkeley knot, improved clinch knot, trilene knot. I've used a bunch of different knots, but I always found that the Uni Knot was a great knot, but where the problem was happening was around the eye of the hook, where the line was a single connection rather than a double. So I thought to myself, well, if I doubled that up, it should improve it. So I was going through the eye twice, and I'm going to walk you through this knot, but I was going through the eye twice and then doing a Uni Knot, cinching it down, and my break strength went to like 97%. So we're fast forwarding 11 years now, and I started doing some research. And the great thing is, if you look, there's a ton of great research and information, both on YouTube from other fishermen, and knot tests, and Knot Wars was a great one. And then I read about a Fishin' Fool knot, and I'm like, it came up there at the top in all the categories. It was just one of those knots, and I'm like, I never knew what this knot that I was doing. I just called it a modified Uni Knot that I was using, going through twice and going through a loop 6 times up and then cinching it down. Well, it turns out that this Fishin' Fool knot is the exact knot I was tying 11 years ago, and it is without a doubt one of the better ones. So let's just walk through it so you guys understand how to get the most out of what you're doing and what is the best knot available. So I'm going to use bigger stuff for this purpose. I got here my Flash Boost Orca. That'll be big enough for you guys to see. And then I've got 40-pound white Power Pro to tie the knot with. So I'm going to pull off a bit of Power Pro here. All right, so basically when you're tying this, we'll call it the Fishin' Fool knot, but really I just called it an improved Uni Knot. You go through the eye twice. So what you're doing now is essentially you've doubled the connection between the braid and the hook eye, okay? And then you create a little D-loop. So basically you bend the line down like this. So now you see you've got this right here. And you take the tag end and you wrap upwards towards your main line around both the center lines 6 times. Pretty simple and basic. It really isn't a hard one to do. This is a great termination connection knot. It does a bunch of great stuff. So when you get that, what I like to do is just bring it softly there, just to the point where it's closed off, and then wet it. I also learned that by not wetting your lines, believe it or not, even with braid, you were losing like 30 or 40% of your break strength. So what I like to do is, because there's going to be a lot of friction between the line going through twice and this almost like a noose knot, just give it a little wet and go slow. Don't rip it down. Just go nice and slow. And then when you get it snug, then you can pull it tight. Okay? And then it's as simple as clipping off that tag end. I like to leave, you know, maybe a 1/4 inch or less on that, and that lets it fray open. But that right there, you can see how tight that knot cinches down where I can't pull it forward. This knot works really well for a bunch of scenarios. Whenever you fish horizontal jigs and you want them to stand up tight, you know, sometimes you got to bring your knot to the upper side of the eye. This knot isn't going to slide back and forth. You can do that and it's going to help your bait stay horizontal. Wherever you decide to put this knot, you tighten it down, it pretty much stays exactly where it is. Again, guys, we're talking percentages here, but in reality, when you're on the water, the last connection you have is your knot and your hooks between you and the fish. You can get everything right. You can get the rod right, the reel right, the action, the tapers, the pound test right, the color of the lure right. You can get everything dialed in to the point where you are getting bit on every cast. But if this fails or these fail, it doesn't matter. So give yourself every possible advantage you can and learn the best knots for what you're doing. For me, it is definitely this. I still like to call it an improved Uni Knot. Apparently it is also called the Fishin' Fool knot. Look it up. Go on YouTube, search out. There's a bunch of great videos out there, but this one here is #1 for me. I use this for fluorocarbon, for braid, for everything. But for braid, this one improved my knot strength the best, and it is the one I have used all over the world, whether I'm fishing bluefin tuna or I'm fishing panfish for crappie and bluegill. This is the one knot that goes everywhere that I go. Do me a favor, click subscribe down below. If you can, also click get notifications. It's crazy because 85% of the people who watch our videos aren't even subscribed to us. They just find us in the side profile or, you know, in the common videos thread on the side of YouTube. Also, if you got a favorite knot, let me know down below. If you got a question about a knot, hit me with it. I try to get to everybody as best I can, and we're usually pretty good at answering questions. So if you got a setup question or a knot question or a line question, let us know. The nice thing about this knot I can tell you is it works flawlessly with all kinds of braid. I have this is on Super8Slick V2 Power Pro. Whether it's regular Power Pro, Maxcuatro Power Pro, Super8Slick V2 Power Pro, this knot works. It does not slip. So there you have it, guys. I hope everybody's doing well. I hope everybody's keeping safe. And most of all, I hope you're all catching fish. We'll talk to you in the next video.